"You're late," she snapped at the black chauffeur, despite his perfect punctuality. But what Victoria Harrington didn't realize as she dismissed the man behind the wheel was that he held her entire social world in his hands. "I should have called my regular service. They understand how important my time is," she complained, never once looking him in the eyes. But what happens when the invisible becomes visible? When the man you've humiliated stands in the spotlight while you watch from the shadows? Will Victoria learn that true luxury isn't about status, but seeing the value in everyone? Dear viewer, if you are watching my story for the first time, I humbly request you write the location from where you are watching right now, subscribe this channel and press the bell icon now not to miss the notifications of my daily published new stories. Thank you, and let's dive into the full story. Marcus Johnson checked his watch, 6:45 p.m. He was 15 minutes early for his pickup, exactly as he preferred. He adjusted his uniform, a crisp black suit with the discreet Elite Chauffeur Service logo, and polished an invisible smudge from his gleaming black Mercedes. Although driving wasn't his main profession, these occasional weekends with the service kept him grounded, connected to the roads and the people who would ultimately use his designs. Perspective, his father had always told him. Never forget what it's like to be behind the wheel. The Westlake Estates gates opened after he presented his credentials. Marcus navigated through the winding roads lined with mansions until he reached 1420 Hillcrest Drive. The three-story modern home featured glass walls and an infinity pool overlooking the city. His phone pinged with a notification that his client, Victoria Harrington, had been alerted of his arrival. According to his notes, he was driving her to the annual Metropolitan Art Museum Charity Gala. The massive front door swung open. Victoria Harrington emerged wearing a shimmering silver gown that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Her blonde hair was swept into an elegant updo, diamonds glittering at her throat and wrists. "You're late," she snapped, despite his being exactly on time. "Good evening, Mrs. Harrington. I'm Marcus Johnson with Elite Chauffeur Service. I'm right on schedule for your 7 p.m. pickup," he responded professionally. She barely glanced at him. "Whatever. Just help with these bags." Marcus stepped forward to take her clutch and a small overnight bag. As he moved to open the car door, she frowned. "Is this the best they could send? I specifically requested their top-tier service." "I assure you, ma'am, this is a Mercedes S-Class, our premium offering." She scoffed. "I meant the driver. Usually, they send someone more experienced." Marcus understood her implication immediately but maintained his composure. "I've been with Elite for 5 years, Mrs. Harrington. You're in good hands." "I suppose you'll have to do," she muttered, sliding into the back seat. As Marcus closed her door, he took a deep breath. He'd encountered this type before, people who saw the uniform, not the man. In his other life, Victoria Harrington would never dare speak to him this way. But tonight, he was just a driver to her. "The Metropolitan Art Museum, correct?" he confirmed as he started the engine. "Yes, and please take Riverside Drive. I can't stand the traffic downtown. The event starts at 8 p.m. Riverside might add 20 minutes to." "Did I ask for your opinion?" Victoria interrupted, already on her phone. "Just do as I say. I know this city better than you ever could." Marcus nodded silently and pulled away from the mansion. If only she knew that he personally designed the engine humming beneath them, an engine that automotive magazines had called revolutionary. If only she knew who was really behind the wheel. 15 years earlier, Marcus Johnson had stood nervously in front of the Pinnacle Motors design team, his portfolio clutched tightly in his hands. Fresh out of the Rhode Island School of Design with honors, he was their first black hire in the design department. "Your concepts are unconventional," the design director had said, flipping through his sketches. "I believe that's what Pinnacle needs," Marcus had replied with more confidence than he felt. European luxury with American boldness. Against the odds, they'd hired him as a junior designer. His first years were challenging, ideas dismissed, contributions overlooked. But Marcus persisted, working after hours, refining his concepts. His breakthrough came when the CEO's son noticed one of Marcus's discarded sketches in the trash. 3 months later, the Johnson line became Pinnacle's fastest-selling model series ever. Now, at 41, Marcus was the secret weapon behind Pinnacle's resurgence. While his name remained largely unknown to the public, marketing preferred to keep the face of their luxury brand more traditional. Industry insiders knew exactly who created the company's most innovative designs. His current project was his masterpiece, the Pinnacle Phantom, a luxury electric vehicle with revolutionary styling. It would debut next month at the International Auto Show, finally with his name and face attached as lead designer. Marcus's thoughts returned to the present as Victoria's voice cut through his memories. "Can't you go any faster? I'm not paying for a scenic tour. The speed limit here is 35, Mrs. Harrington. I'm going 40. She sighed dramatically. "I should have called my regular service. They understand how important my time is." Marcus adjusted the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of Victoria texting furiously on her phone. She was the exact type of wealthy client Pinnacle hoped would buy the Phantom, status-conscious, image-driven, with money to spare. Understanding people like her was precisely why he still drove occasionally. His modest apartment in the city's arts district stood in stark contrast to Victoria's lifestyle. Despite his success, Marcus lived simply. His wealth went to his mother's medical care, his younger sister's college education, and funding design programs in underserved schools. "My friends are already there," Victoria complained. "This is unacceptable." Marcus checked the GPS. "We'll arrive in 12 minutes, ma'am." "Make it 10. He accelerated slightly, weaving expertly through traffic. His skill behind the wheel came from years of test driving his own prototypes, something Victoria would never guess. His phone vibrated in his pocket, probably James, Pinnacle's CEO, checking on last-minute design tweaks for the Phantom. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus. In one life, he was the creative genius courted by industry leaders. In another, he was invisible, just another service worker to be commanded and dismissed. As they approached the museum, Marcus caught sight of his reflection in the window. Tomorrow, he'd be back at Pinnacle, finalizing the design that would change automotive history. Tonight, he was simply the man behind the wheel, beneath Victoria Harrington's notice. And somehow, both realities were equally important to him. The Metropolitan Art Museum glowed against the night sky, its neoclassical columns illuminated with soft purple lighting for the gala. A red carpet stretched from the curb to the entrance, flanked by photographers capturing the arrival of New York's elite. Marcus pulled up to the designated drop-off area where attendants in white gloves waited to assist guests. Before he could exit to open Victoria's door, she had already pushed it open herself. "I'll need pickup at exactly 11:30, she said, not bothering to look at him. "Don't be late." "Of course, Mrs. Harrington." "I'll be here," Marcus replied, but she was already walking away, straightening her posture as she approached the cameras. As he prepared to pull away, a tap on his window startled him. A valet attendant, young, black, probably working his way through college, leaned down. "Man, how do you deal with that?" he asked quietly, nodding toward Victoria, who was now posing dramatically for photographers. Marcus smiled. "It's just a job." She didn't even thank you. "These rich folks think everyone exists to serve them." "Some do," Marcus acknowledged. "Not all." The young man shrugged. "If you say so. I'm just doing this until I finish my engineering degree." "Engineering? What field?" "Automotive. I want to design cars that run on alternative energy." Marcus reached into his pocket and handed the surprised valet his personal card, the one without the chauffeur service logo. "Call me next week. I might know some people who could help with an internship." The young man stared at the card, his eyes widening as recognition dawned. "You're that Marcus Johnson? From Pinnacle Motors?" Marcus winked. "Just don't tell Mrs. Harrington. It'll be our secret." As he pulled away, Marcus couldn't help but smile. Moments like that made these driving shifts worthwhile. Inside the museum, Victoria quickly found her circle, women with equally expensive gowns and men in custom tuxedos. She air-kissed cheeks and accepted a champagne flute from a passing server without acknowledgement. "Victoria, darling, you're fashionably late as usual," said Eleanor Whitfield, the gala's chairwoman. "Transportation issues," Victoria replied with an eye roll. "The service sent an utterly incompetent driver. I nearly missed the red carpet." Her husband Richard, who had arrived separately from a business meeting, placed a hand on her back. "You look stunning, dear. Worth the wait." Richard Harrington was everything Victoria valued: wealthy, connected, and from an old money family. What he lacked in warmth, he made up for in status and stability. "Did you hear about Pinnacle's new luxury line?" Richard asked the group. "They're unveiling something revolutionary next month. Our portfolio manager suggests investing heavily before the announcement." Victoria sipped her champagne disinterestedly. "Cars are your passion, darling, not mine." "These aren't just cars," interjected Maxwell Sheffield, a silver-haired investment banker. "Word is, they've got some genius designer who's reinvented luxury electric vehicles. Everyone's trying to figure out who it is." "Probably another overpaid European with an unpronounceable name," Victoria commented. Unknown to her, Marcus had entered the museum through a side entrance. Elite chauffeur service had a special arrangement with the museum. Drivers could enjoy the art exhibits while waiting for clients rather than sitting in their cars. Marcus never missed an opportunity to visit the design wing, drawing inspiration from everything from ancient pottery to modern sculpture. As he quietly admired a mid-century furniture exhibit, he overheard Victoria's voice from the adjacent gallery where the cocktail reception was underway. "Electric cars are glorified golf carts," she was saying dismissively. "My driver tonight was in some electric Mercedes. Completely soulless." Marcus shook his head slightly. The Mercedes she dismissed was a hybrid, not fully electric, and its engine was largely his design. The woman managed to be wrong on multiple levels simultaneously. Richard countered, "The technology has come a long way, Victoria. Pinnacle's new line will supposedly change everything: speed, design, luxury." "I'll believe it when I see it," she replied. If only she knew what was coming. If only she knew who had driven her tonight. Marcus checked his watch, hours until pickup. He moved deeper into the museum, losing himself in the beauty of human creativity that surrounded him, finding refuge from judgment in the quiet appreciation of art. The soft glow of Marcus's desk lamp cast shadows across the blueprints spread before him. It was nearly 1 a.m., 3 hours since he dropped Victoria Harrington at her mansion and returned to his loft. Sleep should have been his priority, but his mind buzzed with ideas sparked during his museum visit. His spacious loft was modest by designer standards but perfect for his needs. One half functioned as living space, minimalist furniture, bookshelves laden with automotive and art history volumes, and his mother's paintings adorning the walls. The other half was pure creative space, drafting tables, computer workstations with specialized design software, and walls covered with sketches and inspiration boards. Marcus rolled up his sleeves and leaned over his latest Phantom design. The car represented everything he valued: innovation, elegance, and functionality without ostentatious flourishes. Victoria Harrington's dismissive comments about electric vehicles had irritated him, but they'd also crystallized what his design needed to overcome: the perception that sustainable luxury lacked soul. His phone buzzed with a text from James Richardson, Pinnacle's CEO. Final approval meeting moved up to Monday. Board is getting anxious about production timeline. Marcus texted back, "Design is ready. They won't be disappointed." He returned to his drafting table, making minor adjustments to the Phantom's profile. The car's lines were both aerodynamic and sensual, practical for efficiency yet emotionally evocative. It was masculine without being aggressive, powerful without being intimidating. Most importantly, it didn't scream "electric vehicle" in the way Victoria had mocked. A framed photo on his desk caught his eye, his father standing proudly beside the 1980s Cadillac he'd maintained meticulously despite their family's limited means. Marcus had learned both respect for craftsmanship and the value of perception from his father. Cars are dreams you can touch, son, his father had told him. People don't just buy transportation, they buy how the car makes them feel. Marcus scrutinized the Phantom's interior design next. He'd insisted on sustainable materials that didn't compromise luxury, reclaimed wood polish to a high shine, leather alternatives that outperformed animal products, and recycled metals with custom finishes. Each element told a story of responsible innovation. His mind drifted to Victoria in her designer gown, dripping with diamonds while dismissing sustainable technology. The wealthy were his target market, but sometimes the disconnect frustrated him. They had the power to drive change through their purchasing choices yet often remained the most resistant. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. His mother, Elaine, stood in the doorway of his apartment, wrapped in a robe. Since her Parkinson's diagnosis, she occupied the second bedroom of his loft, allowing Marcus to provide care while respecting her independence. "Still up, baby?" she asked, her voice slightly tremulous from her condition. "Just finishing some details." He rose to help her to the couch. "Did I wake you?" "No, just old lady insomnia." She studied the designs on his table. "That's your baby, isn't it? The one being revealed next month?" Marcus nodded. "The Phantom. Everything I've worked for in one design. Your father would have been so proud." She touched his cheek gently. "Not just of the car, but of the man who designed it. Even if that man still moonlights as a driver sometimes." Elaine smiled. "Especially because of that. You never forgot where you came from. That's why your designs have soul." Long after his mother returned to bed, Marcus continued refining the Phantom's details. Victoria Harrington and her kind might never know or care about the person behind the wheel or the person behind the design. But he knew something they didn't: true luxury wasn't about exclusion or status. It was about creating something so perfect that it transcended boundaries. By dawn, Marcus had added the final touches to the design that would soon change everything, not just for him, but for an entire industry. As he finally went to bed, he smiled at the thought of Victoria Harrington someday driving a car he designed, never knowing she'd once dismissed its creator. The gleaming glass tower of Pinnacle Motors headquarters reflected the morning sunlight as Marcus strode through the executive entrance. Unlike his weekend attire, today he wore a tailored charcoal suit with subtle red stitching, professional yet creative, exactly the image Pinnacle wanted for their design department. Security guards nodded respectfully. "Morning, Mr. Johnson." The contrast between this treatment and Victoria's dismissiveness wasn't lost on him. In the elevator to the 40th floor design suite, Marcus reviewed his presentation notes. Today's meeting would determine the final marketing strategy for the Phantom's reveal. After years of keeping him behind the scenes, Pinnacle had finally agreed to put Marcus front and center as the face of their new luxury line, a decision that hadn't come without internal struggle. "Marcus." James Richardson, Pinnacle's silver-haired CEO, called out as Marcus entered the conference room. "The man of the hour." The executive team was already assembled: James, Sophia Chen, marketing director, Harrison Wells, production chief, and several board members. Conspicuously present was Bradford Williams, VP of brand strategy and James's nephew, who had opposed featuring Marcus prominently in the campaign. "Let's get right to it," James began after pleasantries. "We're 1 month from the International Auto Show reveal. The Phantom is the most important launch in our company's history." Sophia advanced to the first slide of her presentation. "Our market research confirms luxury buyers are finally ready for a high-end electric vehicle that doesn't compromise on design or performance. The Phantom hits every marker. And the sustainability messaging tested extremely well with younger affluent buyers," she continued, "particularly when paired with Marcus's design philosophy." Bradford cleared his throat. "About that. I still have concerns about our marketing approach." Marcus tensed, recognizing the familiar resistance. "Our traditional demographic, established luxury buyers over 50, might respond better to a more conventional spokesperson." "You mean white," Sophia said bluntly. Bradford flushed. "I mean familiar. Our buyers expect a certain image from European luxury brands. Pinnacle isn't European, Marcus pointed out quietly. We're American. Innovation is our heritage, not tradition. James tapped his pen on the table. Bradford, we've been over this. The board has approved our strategy. Marcus is the design genius behind our most successful models of the past decade. It's time he received proper recognition. The Phantom is revolutionary, Sophia added. We need to show that Pinnacle is breaking molds, not following them. That starts with celebrating the diverse talent that created it. Bradford glanced at the older board members, hoping for support, but found none. Fine, he conceded. But we're taking a risk. Every innovation is a risk, Marcus responded. That's why it matters. The meeting progressed to production timelines and event logistics. As the team dispersed, James pulled Marcus aside. Don't let Bradford get to you. He's old school, but he'll adapt. Marcus nodded. I'm used to it. You shouldn't have to be, James replied. By the way, the test drive event for VIP clients next week? We've got 40 confirmed attendees, including major influencers in the luxury market. Anyone I know? Marcus asked. James consulted his tablet. Let's see, several celebrities, some tech executives, and quite a few from the financial sector. Richard Harrington and his wife are confirmed, he's a major potential investor. Marcus couldn't help but smile at the irony. Victoria Harrington? Yes, that's the wife. You know them? We've met, Marcus said simply. It should be an interesting event. As he returned to his design studio, Marcus wondered how Victoria would react when she realized who he really was. The moment would come soon enough. The Pinnacle Motors showroom downtown had been transformed for the pre-launch VIP preview. Soft lighting illuminated the space while strategic spotlights highlighted the existing luxury models. The Phantom remained hidden behind elegant black curtains, but select clients would get a glimpse of early production models today. Marcus adjusted his designer glasses, the ones he never wore while driving, and reviewed the guest list with Sophia. His role today was consultant and design expert, not yet revealed as the Phantom's creator. The Harringtons are bringing another couple, the Whitfields, Sophia mentioned. Eleanor Whitfield chairs several museum boards. Could be useful connections. Marcus recognized the name from the gala. I'm familiar with their circle. The first guests began arriving, wealthy couples in designer casual wear, tech entrepreneurs in expensive simplicity, old money in subtle luxury. Marcus moved easily among them, discussing current Pinnacle models while hinting at the revolution to come. Then Victoria Harrington entered on her husband's arm, wearing white slacks and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. She surveyed the room with the entitled confidence of someone accustomed to being catered to. Richard Harrington spotted Marcus and approached enthusiastically. You must be from the design team. Richard Harrington, my firm manages investments for several automotive companies, though unfortunately not Pinnacle. Yet. Marcus Johnson, he replied, shaking Richard's hand. I consult on design elements. Victoria barely glanced at him, her attention focused on a red sports coupe nearby. Victoria, come meet Mr. Johnson from Pinnacle, Richard called. She turned, her eyes passing over Marcus without recognition. Lovely to meet you, she said automatically, clearly not remembering him from the driving service. Without his uniform and in this context, he was invisible to her in a different way. The pleasure's mine, Mrs. Harrington, Marcus replied, studying her reaction. Nothing. No spark of recognition. Richard continued enthusiastically, I've been following Pinnacle's evolution closely. The integration of technology and luxury in your recent models is impressive. Thank you. We believe luxury and innovation should complement each other, not compete, Marcus responded. Victoria finally engaged, though with clear skepticism. My husband's the car enthusiast. I find most electric vehicles lacking presence. They're so silent and soulless. Perhaps you haven't experienced the right one, Marcus suggested. I was in some electric Mercedes recently. Completely underwhelming. She waved dismissively. No offense to your company, but luxury requires a certain heritage. Marcus smiled slightly. None taken. Though the vehicle you're referring to was actually a hybrid, not fully electric. Victoria's eyebrow raised. I think I know what I wrote in. Of course, Marcus conceded, letting the moment pass rather than embarrassing her. Richard redirected, when will we see this mysterious phantom everyone's talking about? I hear the designer is some kind of prodigy. The full reveal is scheduled for the auto show next month, Marcus explained. But selected guests will get a preview in the demonstration room shortly. A Pinnacle associate approached. Mr. Johnson, we're ready for the preview presentation whenever you are. Victoria's eyes narrowed slightly at the deference shown to Marcus, reassessing him. If you'll excuse me, Marcus said. Please enjoy the refreshments. The presentation will begin in 15 minutes. As he walked away, he overheard Victoria whisper to Richard, he's just a consultant, right? Why is he running the presentation? In the preparation room, Sophia joined Marcus. The Harringtons seemed interested. He is. She's harder to impress. Well, once they see the Phantom, and learn you designed it, I imagine her opinion might change. Marcus straightened his jacket. We'll see. Soon, 30 VIP guests were seated in the darkened demonstration room. Marcus stood at the podium, still introduced simply as a Pinnacle design specialist. As he began his presentation on the philosophy behind the new luxury line, he noticed Victoria whispering to Eleanor, clearly unimpressed by the speaker. At Pinnacle, we believe true luxury isn't about announcing your status to the world, Marcus said, his rich voice commanding the room despite Victoria's disinterest. It's about experiencing perfection that others might not even notice. It's about knowing the value of what you possess, whether others recognize it or not. The lights dimmed further as Marcus continued, what you're about to see represents thousands of hours of innovation, designed to change not just how you drive, but how you feel about driving. The curtain slowly rose, revealing the sleek silhouette of the Phantom prototype. A collective gasp filled the room as soft lights gradually illuminated the vehicle's revolutionary lines. Even Victoria sat up straighter, her expression shifting from boredom to surprise. This, Marcus said with quiet pride, is the future of luxury. And despite herself, Victoria Harrington was captivated. 1 week before the International Auto Show, Pinnacle Motors buzzed with frantic energy. The main production floor had been cleared to create a mock-up of their exhibition space, allowing the team to rehearse the Phantom's grand reveal. Marcus stood center stage, reviewing the presentation with the events team. After the initial reveal and your introduction as lead designer, we'll have the turntable rotate showing all angles while you explain the key innovations, explained Alexis, the events coordinator. Then the lighting will transition for the technical specifications portion. Marcus nodded, visualizing the sequence. And the interactive displays for sustainability features? Positioned at the four corners of our booth, staffed by technical specialists. Sophia approached, tablet in hand. Early press responses to the teaser images are off the charts. The mystery around the designer has generated even more buzz. For years, Pinnacle had kept Marcus's role deliberately low profile, using his designs but featuring European consultants in promotional materials. The decision to finally present him as the creative genius behind their renaissance had come after months of internal debate. Reservation requests have already hit 4 figures, Sophia continued. The Harringtons confirmed their attendance at the VIP section, by the way. Richard seemed particularly enthusiastic after the preview. Marcus smiled slightly. And Mrs. Harrington? Her assistant confirmed they'd attend together. Sophia hesitated. There's something else. Bradford has been pushing back about your introduction segment. He wants to shorten it, focus more on the car's technical specs instead of your design philosophy. Not surprising, Marcus sighed. Bradford's resistance to featuring him prominently had been consistent. James Richardson appeared, clapping Marcus on the shoulder. Ignore Bradford. This is your moment, and you've earned it. The CEO guided Marcus toward the phantom prototype. I wanted to share something with you privately. The reservation list. 3 board members from competing luxury brands have used their spouses' names to secure early purchases. They're worried, Marcus. As they should be. Pride warmed Marcus's chest. That's the ultimate compliment. Indeed it is, James agreed. Now, there's a minor issue with the interior lighting demonstration. Can you take a look? As they walked around the vehicle, a young man approached nervously, Dion Taylor, the valet from the museum gala whom Marcus had given his card. Mr. Johnson. I don't mean to interrupt, but Ms. Chen said I could observe the rehearsal. Dion clutched a portfolio. I start my internship next week. Marcus smiled warmly. Dion, glad you called. This is James Richardson, our CEO. James, Dion has some innovative ideas about sustainable materials for future models. James shook the young man's hand. Any friend of Marcus's is welcome here. Perhaps you can give us your perspective on the presentation as someone from our younger demographic. As Dion joined the rehearsal audience, Marcus couldn't help reflecting on his own journey from outsider to leader. He'd faced countless Victoria Harringtons along the way, people who'd dismissed, overlooked, or underestimated him based on preconceptions. Each slight had only strengthened his determination. The technical team called him over to resolve an issue with the demonstration model's lighting sequence. As Marcus worked, he overheard Bradford complaining to a colleague. The focus should be on the car, not some diversity story. Our traditional buyers don't care who designed it. Marcus pretended not to hear, but Sophia interjected sharply, our research says otherwise. Younger luxury buyers specifically care about the creators and values behind their purchases. And the diversity story, as you call it, is actually an American innovation story that resonates across demographics. Bradford walked away, clearly dissatisfied. Later, as the team dispersed for dinner, Dion approached Marcus again. This is amazing, Mr. Johnson. I can't believe I'm here. You belong here, Marcus assured him. Talent deserves recognition. Can I ask something personal? Dion hesitated. How do you deal with people who don't think you belong? Like that Bradford guy, I heard what he said. Marcus considered the question carefully. I focus on the work. Excellence speaks louder than prejudice, and lasts longer too. Bradford's attitude is fading. Your generation is creating a different world. As Marcus gathered his things to leave, his phone buzzed, elite chauffeur service requesting his availability for the weekend. Despite his busy schedule, Marcus accepted one assignment. Driving kept him connected to the real world outside Pinnacle's gleaming bubble. The irony wasn't lost on him that in just 1 week, he would stand on a global stage as a celebrated designer, while this weekend, he would once again be invisible behind the wheel. Both experiences shaped his understanding of the world and his place in it. And that understanding informed every curve and line of the Phantom, a vehicle designed to transcend assumptions, just as its creator had done throughout his career. Rain tapped against the windows of the Mercedes as Marcus navigated through Saturday evening traffic. His final driving shift before the auto show had been uneventful, an elderly couple to the theater, a businessman to the airport. Now, checking his app for his last pickup, Marcus froze when he saw the name, Victoria Harrington, from the Bellamy Hotel to her residence. He briefly considered canceling but decided against it. One last reminder of why his work mattered, one final encounter before everything changed. Marcus pulled up to the hotel's covered entrance precisely at 9 p.m. Victoria emerged alone, sheltered by the doorman's umbrella, wearing an elegant black dress from what appeared to be a formal dinner. Her expression soured slightly upon seeing him. Oh. You again. Good evening, Mrs. Harrington, Marcus replied professionally as he opened the door. She slid into the back seat without further acknowledgement, immediately taking out her phone. Westlake Estates, same address as before. Yes, ma'am. Would you prefer the highway or scenic route given the rain? Whatever's fastest. I've had a thoroughly disappointing evening. Marcus pulled into traffic, curious despite himself. I'm sorry to hear that. To his surprise, Victoria continued, a dinner celebrating female entrepreneurs, and half the honorees were these young influencers with makeup lines. In my day, you actually had to build something substantial to be considered successful. Marcus noted her dismissive tone but also the underlying insecurity. Victoria was struggling with irrelevance in a changing world. What field are you in, Mrs. Harrington? He asked, though he already knew she primarily managed charitable giving for her husband's fortune. I supervise our family's philanthropic portfolio, she said stiffly. Though I used to work in art acquisition for private collectors. That sounds fascinating. She seemed surprised by his genuine interest. It was, actually. I have an excellent eye for emerging talent. My husband's world, finance, technology, automobiles, that's all rather dull to me. Speaking of automobiles, Marcus ventured, I understand there's a major auto show starting Monday. Victoria sighed. Richard won't stop talking about it. Some revolutionary new electric car being revealed. He's dragging me to the opening. The Pinnacle Phantom, Marcus noted. I've heard about it. You follow automotive news? Her tone suggested surprise that a driver would have such interests. I try to stay informed about advancements in the field. Victoria shifted in her seat. Well, Richard's obsessed. Apparently, the designer is some hidden genius they're finally revealing. Seems like a marketing gimmick to me. Marcus smiled slightly in the darkness of the driver's seat. Perhaps. Or perhaps they wanted the work to speak for itself first. I doubt it will live up to the hype, Victoria said dismissively. These tech companies always overpromise. Pinnacle is actually one of America's oldest automotive manufacturers, Marcus corrected gently. They've been building luxury vehicles for almost a century. Victoria waved her hand. You know what I mean. Everything's about technology now, not craftsmanship. There's no soul in it. I don't know, Marcus mused, slowing for a red light. I think there can be tremendous soul in innovation. Think about the first time someone heard recorded music, or saw a photograph of a loved one. Technology can create new forms of beauty. The thoughtfulness of his response seemed to catch Victoria off guard. She studied him in the rearview mirror with new curiosity. You're quite articulate for a, she stopped herself. For a driver. Marcus finished, meeting her eyes briefly in the mirror. Victoria had the grace to look embarrassed. I didn't mean, it's all right, Mrs. Harrington. People contain multitudes. Sometimes we just don't bother looking beyond the surface. An uncomfortable silence filled the car as they turned into Westlake Estates. The rain had intensified, drumming heavily on the roof. As they approached her mansion, Victoria spoke again, her tone different. My husband mentioned the designer of this new car is African American. Apparently, that's unusual in luxury automotive design. Very unusual, Marcus agreed. The luxury market has traditionally been quite exclusive in many ways. Is that changing? Slowly, Marcus answered, pulling into her driveway. But change often happens suddenly after long periods of resistance. Like a dam breaking. He stopped the car and stepped out with an umbrella, opening her door and shielding her from the rain. Victoria paused before exiting. What's your name again? She asked. Marcus. Marcus Johnson. She nodded slightly. You're quite insightful, Marcus. Thank you for the ride. As Victoria walked toward her front door, Marcus called out, Enjoy the auto show, Mrs. Harrington. I think you might be surprised. She turned back, looking puzzled, but Marcus was already returning to the driver's seat. Tomorrow, he would pack away his chauffeur's uniform for the last time. Monday would bring a new chapter, one where Victoria Harrington and everyone else would finally see him clearly. As he drove away from Westlake Estates, Marcus felt a curious sense of closure. All the slights, the dismissals, the assumptions he'd endured, they were about to be answered not with anger or resentment, but with excellence that could no longer be denied. The International Auto Show's opening day arrived with unprecedented media coverage. Pinnacle's exhibition space, triple the size of previous years, was surrounded by anticipation and security. Behind the massive black curtains hiding the Phantom, Marcus adjusted his custom-designed suit, a subtle blend of traditional tailoring and innovative fabric that mirrored his automotive philosophy. 5 minutes, Mr. Johnson, an assistant informed him. The hall is at capacity. Every automotive journalist in the country is out there, plus celebrities, influencers, and industry executives. Marcus nodded, his usual pre-presentation calm settling over him. Sophia approached with last-minute details. The Harringtons are seated in the VIP section, front row center, she mentioned. Richard looks excited. Victoria seems less enthusiastic. Marcus smiled. That might change soon. James Richardson joined them, straightening his tie. Ready for your moment? I've been ready for 15 years, Marcus replied. The house lights dimmed, and James stepped out to welcoming applause. His amplified voice filled the exhibition hall. For almost a century, Pinnacle Motors has defined American luxury on the road. Today, we redefine it for the next 100 years. Video screens displayed a montage of Pinnacle's heritage while dramatic music built tension. Marcus breathed deeply, centering himself. Behind every revolutionary design is a visionary who sees what others cannot, James continued. For the past decade, Pinnacle's renaissance has been guided by one extraordinary designer whose work you've admired without knowing his name. In the audience, Victoria whispered to Richard, more marketing theatrics. Just show the car already. James's voice grew more passionate. Today, we reveal not just our future flagship vehicle, but also the American genius behind it. Ladies and gentlemen, I present the designer of the Pinnacle Phantom, Marcus Johnson. Spotlights followed Marcus as he walked confidently onto the stage, shaking James's hand before taking the microphone. Applause filled the hall, with some confused murmurs as people processed who they were seeing. In the front row, Victoria's expression shifted from boredom to confusion to shock as recognition slowly dawned. Her posture stiffened, her face paling visibly even under the dim lights. Thank you, Marcus began, his rich voice commanding the space. Great design has always been about seeing beyond what is to what could be. The Phantom represents my vision of luxury reimagined, where performance, sustainability, and beauty exist in perfect harmony. With theatrical timing, the curtains slowly parted to reveal the Phantom in all its glory, sleek, powerful, undeniably revolutionary. Gasps and spontaneous applause erupted. Camera flashes illuminated the hall like lightning. We created the Phantom with a simple philosophy, Marcus continued, walking around the vehicle with comfortable authority. True luxury should elevate everyone it touches, from the artisans who craft it, to those who experience it, to the world that sustains us all. As Marcus detailed the Phantom's innovations, Victoria remained frozen in her seat, her expression unreadable. Richard, oblivious to his wife's discomfort, leaned forward in excitement, occasionally squeezing her hand. This vehicle achieves performance benchmarks previously thought impossible for electric luxury, Marcus explained, activating a turntable to display the Phantom from all angles. 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. Over 400 miles of range. Charging to 80% in under 20 minutes. The technical presentation continued with demonstrations of the Phantom's revolutionary features, each met with industry applause. Throughout, Marcus could feel Victoria's eyes following him, her earlier dismissiveness replaced by stunned recognition. When the presentation concluded, the stage was flooded with journalists and industry leaders eager to speak with Marcus. He handled questions with the same quiet confidence he'd always possessed, now finally visible to the world. Eventually, VIP guests were invited for an exclusive closer look. Richard Harrington approached enthusiastically, pulling a reluctant Victoria beside him. Mr. Johnson, absolutely brilliant work, Richard gushed, extending his hand. The integration of sustainability without compromising luxury, genius. Thank you, Mr. Harrington, Marcus replied, shaking his hand before turning to Victoria. Mrs. Harrington, lovely to see you again. In a different context this time. Victoria struggled to maintain her composure. You were. Your driver, yes, Marcus confirmed calmly. Among other things. Richard looked confused. You two know each other? Mrs. Harrington has used elite chauffeur service where I occasionally drive to stay connected with the road experience, Marcus explained smoothly. It provides valuable perspective for my design work. Victoria found her voice, though it lacked its usual confidence. I had no idea you were this. Marcus smiled gently. Few people see beyond their initial assumptions, Mrs. Harrington. It's a common limitation. Before Victoria could respond, other VIPs crowded around, eager to meet the man of the hour. Marcus was pulled away, leaving Victoria standing speechless for perhaps the first time in her privileged life. As cameras flashed and congratulations poured in, Marcus caught a final glimpse of Victoria. She was watching him with an expression that had transformed from shock to something more complex, a dawning recognition not just of who he was, but of what her own blindness had cost her. The day after the Phantom's reveal, Pinnacle's headquarters became a pilgrimage site for automotive journalists and industry leaders. Marcus's schedule overflowed with interviews, each publication eager for exclusive insights from the designer suddenly thrust into the spotlight. Between appointments, Marcus retreated to his design studio for a rare moment of quiet. The wall-mounted television silently played business news, where analysts discussed Pinnacle's stock surge following the Phantom's unveiling. His phone buzzed constantly with congratulatory messages and meeting requests. A knock at his door interrupted his brief respite. Sophia stood in the doorway, her expression suggesting complexity. Victoria Harrington is here, she said quietly. She's asking to see you. Alone. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Interesting. Did she say why? Only that it's personal and important. He considered for a moment. Send her in. And Sophia? Give us 15 minutes, then interrupt with my next appointment, whether there is one or not. Sophia nodded understandingly and disappeared. Moments later, Victoria entered, looking uncharacteristically hesitant. Her usual confidence seemed diminished, replaced by a rare vulnerability. Mr. Johnson, she began formally. Marcus, please, he corrected, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. Would you like to sit? Victoria perched on the edge of the chair, her posture rigid. I imagine you must be enjoying this moment tremendously. Marcus studied her. Which moment would that be? The reversal. The power shift. Her words came quickly now. Having me come to you, embarrassed and apologetic, after how I treated you. Is that why you're here? To apologize? Victoria's perfectly manicured hands twisted in her lap. Partly. Mostly, I wanted to understand. Understand what? Why you didn't say anything. When I was dismissive. Rude. You could have put me in my place at any time. Revealed who you really were. Marcus leaned back in his chair. That would have served what purpose exactly? To teach me a lesson, Victoria said, sounding genuinely confused by his restraint. Mrs. Harrington, my job, my purpose, isn't to teach you or anyone else lessons about treatment of service workers. My purpose is to design extraordinary vehicles. Everything else is secondary. Victoria fell silent, processing. The business channel continued its silent analysis of Pinnacle's triumph in the background. Besides, Marcus continued, would revealing my real identity have changed anything meaningful? Would it have made you reconsider how you treat people you consider beneath you? Or would it have simply made you treat me differently because of my status, while continuing to dismiss others? The directness of his question seemed to strike Victoria like a physical blow. Color rose in her cheeks. I'm not a terrible person, she said defensively. I give substantially to charity. I serve on boards for underprivileged communities. I never said you were terrible, Marcus replied calmly. But there's a difference between writing checks to the less fortunate and treating people with dignity regardless of their perceived status. Victoria's eyes dropped. Richard is mortified. He's worried your encounter with me might jeopardize his investment opportunities with Pinnacle. It won't, Marcus assured her. Business and personal matters remain separate. She seemed relieved but still troubled. The press coverage of you is overwhelming. Hidden genius finally recognized. The future of American design. Breaking barriers in luxury automotive. Everyone's talking about you. And that bothers you? Victoria hesitated, then admitted with surprising candor, it makes me question what else, who else, I've overlooked or dismissed. How many other extraordinary people I've treated as invisible because they didn't match my expectations of success or importance. For the first time, Marcus saw genuine self-reflection in her expression. It wasn't a groveling apology or humiliation some might have wished for her, but something potentially more valuable, the beginning of awareness. That's a useful question to consider, he said simply. Victoria straightened, regaining some of her composure. For what it's worth, the Phantom is extraordinary. Even to someone like me who claims not to care about cars. Thank you. She stood, signaling the conversation's end. I won't take more of your time. You must be incredibly busy with your new celebrity. Marcus rose as well. It's temporary. The work is what lasts. As Victoria moved toward the door, she turned back. Will you continue driving occasionally? Now that everyone knows who you are. Probably not, Marcus admitted. Though not because I'm above it. The anonymity was valuable for both my research and my perspective. That's gone now. Victoria nodded, understanding. Your perspective seems to have served you well. Before she could say more, Sophia knocked and entered exactly on schedule. I'm sorry to interrupt, but your interview with Automotive Excellence is in 5 minutes, Marcus. Thank you, Sophia. Marcus turned to Victoria. It was an illuminating conversation, Mrs. Harrington. Victoria, she corrected, extending her hand. And yes, it was. They shook hands briefly, not as driver and passenger, not as designer and client, but as two people seeing each other clearly for perhaps the first time. As Victoria left, Marcus noticed the television had switched to footage of him at yesterday's reveal, standing proudly beside his creation. The caption read, Marcus Johnson, redefining American luxury and breaking barriers. He smiled slightly. The barriers that truly mattered weren't the ones mentioned in headlines. They were the invisible ones that existed in minds like Victoria's, and in the countless small interactions that revealed character far more honestly than grand public gestures. The real victory wasn't his moment in the spotlight. It was in the quiet recognition that had just occurred in his office, away from cameras and applause. 2 weeks after the Phantom's triumphant reveal, Marcus sat in a small cafe near his loft, away from Pinnacle's corporate bustle. The past 14 days had brought a whirlwind of media attention, with his face appearing on magazine covers and morning shows. Reservation numbers for the Phantom had shattered industry records, and Pinnacle's stock had reached historic highs. Yet here, in the neighborhood cafe where he'd sketched early Phantom concepts, Marcus could still find moments of normalcy. The barista knew him as a regular, not as the celebrated designer in the news. His mother joined him, moving slowly with her cane. Despite her insistence that he needn't accompany her to every appointment, Marcus had maintained their Tuesday routine, breakfast together before her physical therapy. You're too quiet, Elaine observed, stirring her tea. Success weighing heavy? Marcus smiled. Just adjusting. It's strange being visible after years of working behind the scenes. You were always visible to those who mattered, she reminded him. Including yourself. Their conversation paused as Marcus noticed a familiar figure entering the cafe. Victoria Harrington, dressed in casual elegance that still managed to signal her wealth, scanned the space before spotting him. To his surprise, she approached their table. Mr. Johnson, Marcus, she corrected herself. I hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all, Marcus replied. Victoria, this is my mother, Elaine Johnson. Mom, this is Victoria Harrington. The one from the car service? Elaine asked with surprising directness. Victoria flushed slightly. Yes, that would be me. Instead of embarrassment, Elaine's eyes held gentle assessment. Please, join us if you'd like. Victoria hesitated before taking the offered seat. I won't stay long. I was meeting someone nearby and recognized you through the window. An awkward silence descended until Elaine spoke. My son tells me your husband is interested in investing in Pinnacle. Yes, Victoria confirmed. Richard is finalizing details this week. She turned to Marcus. Your success has been remarkable. The Phantom is all anyone in our circle talks about. The waiting list is substantial, Marcus acknowledged. Your husband's order is confirmed, though. Early production models ship next month. Victoria nodded, then surprised him by asking, how is Dion doing in his internship? Marcus raised an eyebrow. You remember his name? I make a point now to learn names, she said quietly. Especially of people I might have overlooked before. The admission hung in the air, its significance not lost on anyone at the table. He's thriving, Marcus answered. His materials science background is proving valuable to our sustainability initiatives. Victoria seemed genuinely pleased. That's wonderful. She hesitated before continuing, I've been doing some thinking since our conversation. About visibility and invisibility. About who we see and who we don't. And? Elaine prompted gently when Victoria paused. And I've realized I've spent much of my life looking past people rather than at them. Her voice carried unusual vulnerability. It's not a flattering realization. Awareness is the beginning of change, Elaine offered. Victoria turned to Marcus. I'm curious, was I the only one who treated you dismissively when you were driving? Marcus laughed softly. Hardly. You weren't even the worst. Yet you continued doing it. Why subject yourself to that kind of treatment when you didn't need to? Marcus considered her question carefully. Perspective is precious in my field. Understanding both lives, being invisible and being celebrated, makes me a better designer. Better able to create something that serves everyone, not just those already seen and valued. Victoria absorbed this, then reached into her purse and withdrew an envelope. This is actually why I wanted to find you. Richard and I are hosting a fundraiser next month for arts education in underserved schools. Given your background bridging design and engineering, we thought you might be interested in being involved. Marcus accepted the envelope. I'll look into it. Thank you. Victoria stood to leave but paused. One more thing. I'm working with the Metropolitan Museum on a new exhibition about innovation and design across cultures. Given your unique perspective, would you consider being interviewed for the companion documentary? The museum director specifically requested you. Eleanor Whitfield. Marcus asked, remembering the gala chairwoman. Yes. She was impressed by your perspective on design heritage during the Phantom presentation. I'd be happy to participate. Victoria nodded, satisfied. Excellent. I'll have my assistant contact your office. She turned to Elaine. It was lovely meeting you, Mrs. Johnson. Your son is an extraordinary man. I've always thought so, Elaine replied warmly. After Victoria departed, Elaine watched her son carefully. People can surprise you. Sometimes, Marcus agreed. Though it's rarely the grand gestures that tell the true story. What do you mean? Did you notice she still didn't apologize? Marcus observed without bitterness. She's changing, but slowly. Real transformation is difficult. Elaine patted his hand. But possible. For all of us. As they finished their breakfast, Marcus reflected on visibility, how it could be both a burden and a gift. In his years of anonymity, he'd observed humanity's truths from the shadows. Now in the spotlight, he had a different kind of power. Both perspectives shaped his understanding of the world and his place in it. The Phantom had finally brought him recognition, but his greatest design remained his own life, crafted carefully across decades, regardless of who was watching. 3 months after the Phantom's reveal, Marcus navigated his own personal model through autumn streets toward Pinnacle's headquarters. The car no longer turned heads with curious stares. The Phantom had become a recognized symbol of innovation, with dozens now on the road among the ultra-wealthy early adopters. Pinnacle's transformation extended far beyond its flagship vehicle. Under Marcus's expanded influence as newly appointed creative director, the company had embraced a more inclusive vision of luxury, one that valued craftsmanship and innovation regardless of source. Marcus parked in his reserved space and headed to the executive floor for the quarterly meeting. The boardroom was already filled with familiar faces, including several new ones. Diversifying the company's leadership had been one of Marcus's conditions for accepting his promotion. James Richardson called the meeting to order. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the Phantom's unprecedented success. 3 months post-launch, and we've exceeded our annual sales projections already. Applause filled the room, with even Bradford nodding in grudging respect. More importantly, James continued, our initiatives beyond the vehicle itself are showing promising results. Marcus, would you share an update on the education program? Marcus stood. The Pinnacle Design Academy has secured partnerships with 5 universities to provide scholarships for underrepresented students in automotive design and engineering. The first cohort begins in January. He displayed slides showing the renovation of an abandoned factory into the academy's main campus. Additionally, our weekend workshops for high school students have reached over 300 participants this quarter. Dion, now employed full-time on Marcus's team, added, the mentorship program has 30 professionals volunteering, including 15 Pinnacle employees. As the meeting continued, Marcus's phone vibrated with a message from an unexpected source, Victoria Harrington. Thought you'd want to know, Metropolitan Museum Design Exhibition confirmed for spring. Your interview segment received excellent feedback from preview audience. Also, Richard driving the Phantom to work daily. Says it's changing minds at his firm about sustainability. Progress. Marcus smiled slightly. Victoria's evolution hadn't been dramatic or performative. Instead, like good design, it revealed itself in subtle, consistent ways, an invitation here, a thoughtful connection there. Not perfect, but authentic in its effort. After the meeting, Marcus visited the design studio where junior designers were conceptualizing Pinnacle's next-generation vehicles. He observed quietly from the doorway as they debated material choices. James joined him. Reminds me of you 15 years ago. Fighting for your vision. The difference is they don't have to fight quite as hard, Marcus noted. The path is still challenging, but slightly clearer. Because of you, James said. Marcus shook his head. Because of timing, opportunity, and persistence. I was just the one who happened to break through. Later that afternoon, Marcus did something he hadn't done since the Phantom's launch. He drove to his mother's medical center for her appointment. In the early days of his newfound fame, he'd hired a service, concerned about privacy. Now, he embraced the ordinary aspects of life again. As he helped Elaine from the car, a parking attendant approached, young, black, probably working his way through school just as Marcus once had. Sweet ride, sir, the young man said appreciatively. Thank you, Marcus replied, handing him the keys. Take good care of her. Yes, sir. The attendant examined the vehicle more closely, recognition dawning. Wait, is this a Phantom? Are you, Marcus Johnson, he confirmed with a smile. Man, I'm studying industrial design at community college. Your story is like, he stopped, embarrassed by his enthusiasm. What's your name? Marcus asked. Trevor, sir. Marcus reached into his wallet and handed Trevor his card. Call my office next week, Trevor. We might have an internship that would interest you. The young man's face lit up. For real. Thank you, sir. As Marcus walked his mother inside, she squeezed his arm. Some things never change, do they? Still picking up strays. Not strays, Marcus corrected. Just people who deserve to be seen. That evening, Marcus received another message, this time from Richard Harrington, containing a press release for the charity foundation he and Victoria had established to support arts and design education in underserved communities. The Harringtons had committed $20 million as initial funding. The final paragraph caught Marcus's attention. Victoria Harrington will serve as executive director, bringing her expertise in arts administration to ensure resources reach talented individuals regardless of background or circumstance. It wasn't a personal apology or dramatic redemption, but something more sustainable, channeling privilege toward creating opportunity, prompted by a changed perspective. Marcus saved the press release to share with his mother later. The story that had begun with humiliation and invisibility had evolved into something more nuanced, not a simple tale of revenge or comeuppance, but one of recognition. Recognition that excellence existed everywhere, often hiding in plain sight. Recognition that people contained multitudes beyond the narrow roles assigned to them. His phone rang, Sophia calling about tomorrow's design review. "I'll be there," Marcus confirmed. "And Sophia? Make sure the entire team is present, including the interns. Everyone's perspective matters." As night fell over the city, Marcus stood at his loft window, watching lights illuminate countless unknown lives. Somewhere out there, drivers were taking wealthy passengers to their destinations. Designers were sketching dreams that might never be recognized. Students were studying despite obstacles. Some would break through. Most wouldn't. But Marcus had ensured that at Pinnacle, at least, the path was slightly wider than before. Not because one exceptional person had navigated it, but because that navigation had proven what had always been true: talent, innovation, and value existed everywhere, if only we had the wisdom to see it. The rest was just design. Dear friend, the walls we build through prejudice and assumption don't just hurt others, they blind us to human brilliance that exists all around us. This story reminds us that dignity belongs to everyone, regardless of uniform or position. The next time you interact with someone in service, remember, behind every person is a complete human story worthy of respect. True success isn't measured by how we treat those we think important, but by how we acknowledge the humanity in everyone we meet. If this message resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that challenge perspectives and open hearts. Together, we can create a world where no one remains invisible.